Hey guys, how's it going? This is Davin with Davin D Doodles, and thank you so much for joining me for another Sunday chill, color, and chat. We are returning to Johanna Basford this week. It is going to be our rainbow spread from Magical Jungle. Yeah, Magical Jungle. And we're going to be working on building up some layers, trying to intensify some colors. And before we get started, I do just want to put this out there that I have never really done pencils before. This is an entirely new process to me. Please do not take this as a tutorial in any way because I do not know what I am doing. I'm just hoping to take you guys along for the ride in my learning experiences. So, with all that said, this is going to take me a while, it always does, but this is meant to be more of like a catch-up session, kind of like a relaxing thing for us to all be in for together, something for background noise while you do your own craft. So with that said, go ahead and pause the video, pick up your craft, make a snack, and get a drink. For this channel, it's going to either be coffee or tea, and I guess if you want hot cocoa, it's warming up, so I will allow it for maybe a little while longer, but you're pushing your luck at this point. So go ahead and get all those things, return to me, and we will get started on probably the reds. I'm feeling more red today. So get your snack, get your craft, get your drink, and let's get going. Alright, so hopefully you've done all that. I know I have. And I've got my pencils kind of assorted in the color spectrum that I need over on the side here. And I'm not sure how I'm actually going to do this, so I'm just gonna try and hope that it goes well. I'm gonna just go with dark reds and go further and further and further. I think I want to do like a really dark red though. What color is this? Where did my swatch sheet go? We'll use this. Somebody wrote all over my swatch sheet. Well, that's bad for him. My husband just kind of helped himself to my colored pencil sheet over here. We'll do this color. Okay. So we're gonna stick with this really, I think it's deep scarlet red. We're gonna start with the deep scarlet red and just see what we can do with it. I'm assuming I'll be okay since it is just kind of like a basic, you know, it's just a generic rainbow color pattern that I'm doing. I'm figuring it's not gonna be too terribly complex. Maybe I can add some details on shading and stuff and the actual leaves, but the colors themselves I think just need to be layered and kind of brought up a bit because right now they're a little pale. But as I said, I've never worked with colored pencils like extensively. This is probably my first real attempt. I do have a video where I was working on a Kirby Rosanna's book and I tried to start a picture in that, which was coming along pretty well. But again, that was like more of a monochrome type picture and it wasn't something super in-depth. So I'm not sure how I want to do this yet. I'm still just kind of going with the flow. So if you have recommendations, suggestions, or if you've done this spread, let me know down in the comments. I would love to see what you've done. I just love getting inspiration from other people and kind of seeing how they tackle projects. And I have been watching more and more color tubers that use colored pencils, and it's kind of like lighting a fire under my butt. It's really making me want to explore more with this particular medium. So right now I'm just going to do like another small layer before I really start punching in some shades and colors. I think I do want to make the leaves like stronger and add a little bit more detail, but I want the color itself all over to be just brighter. But anyway, that's a lot of talk about coloring. I am a little bit pressed for time today, so I'm not sure how long this one's going to be. I need to do a whole lot, and yesterday I took basically the entire day off. I went for a hike with my husband, which I will talk about a little bit later, and I also just did a ton of reading, which, by the way, I finished The Lottery by Patricia Wood, and I am so in love with that book. I still love that book so much. If you have read it, please let me know down in the comments what you thought of it, because I read it probably 10 years ago. It came out in 2007, and I wanted to read it again to see like if I would still like it as much. Like, did it still resonate with me as strongly as it did back then? And it actually speaks to me even more now because I have more life experiences and I can just appreciate like the innocence of the character, and I just love that book so much. I cannot recommend it more. So I'm going to try and talk about it a little bit without kind of spoiling anything. though by this point, like, it's been, what, almost 14 years? Is that right? I don't know. It's too early. I haven't had enough coffee to do math. It's been a really long time, so I'm sure if anybody, was going to read the book, they probably already have, or they've read reviews. And I mean, the name kind of gives it away. It's called Lottery. It is about a boy, or I guess he's a man technically. I think he's in his 30s, if I remember right. He's in his 30s, and he's technically not retarded. He's about 1 point above, like, the quote-unquote retarded spectrum. So he's slow. And the book is about, like, his life and how he lives with his grandmother. His family is nothing but a bunch of, like, I don't know, they're toxic, just super toxic. They don't want to deal with him. They don't like him because he's slow, and they're very selfish, just horrible people. And in some ways, I will admit that also resonates with me. I do have good members of my family, and I have bad members of my family. We all kind of have that dynamic. Nobody's family is perfect. So, it's about him when he wins the lottery, and like how he copes with it, and how he starts off with like a lot of people not liking him and making fun of him, and he's got this very modest, meek, kind life. And when he wins the lottery, he's noticing like everybody wants to be his friend. Everybody suddenly listens to him and things like that. So it's really interesting just how the character develops, how the people around him develop. And it really kind of speaks to human nature on a certain level with certain types of people. His friends obviously care about him. They cared about him before he won the lottery and things like that. So it's interesting to see their dynamic versus, say, his toxic family. And there is a moment in the book, I actually cried several times during this book. I'm just going to put that out there. I've cried several times this week, to be honest with you, but his grandmother does end up dying before he wins the lottery. And it's a very sad moment because it's the first time he realizes he's like completely alone, because his family, this toxic family of his, does not want to help him. They want nothing to do with him. He's a problem. They just want the money they can get out of her house and things like that. And I think that was something that I resonated the most with, because after my own dad passed and I had to kind of help, well, basically I had to deal with a bunch of crap. Even though I was not the executor of his estate, my uncle was. Like, I was the one that was having to deal with, like, people coming out of the woodwork that I didn't even know. They were messaging me on Facebook. I had no idea how they found out, because I'm a very private person. After my dad passed, like, I took care of things. I made sure he was, cremated like he wanted to be. I didn't even do, like, an obituary for him, because I didn't want being out of state, because he lived in Florida and I'm obviously in New Orleans, as I've said several times. I didn't want to publicly advertise that, like, he was gone and his house was empty, because anybody that knew him knew that he wasn't married. So I didn't even do like a obituary in the newspaper or anything. And people were coming out of the woodwork. They were messaging me on Facebook. His neighbors were terrible. Like, everybody was asking for things. And I'm just going, like, who are you people? Like, no, go away. And, I mean, there was family drama that I won't even start on. But it was just really kind of disappointing to see. Like, it never registered with me before I had it happen to myself that this is actually something that happens. And it wasn't like he was super wealthy. He didn't have a ton of money. But people will come after anything they possibly can when someone passes away. And it's so upsetting and kind of disheartening. But that was also something I really connected with in this book, because that is the exact same thing that happened to the main character. And it's just like, dude, I feel for you. I wish I could just beat the crap out of these people for you, and you're a fictional character. But, yeah, so it was one of those things. And I mean, when it came to, like, the money and stuff like that, I could also see how that was a problem for him. Especially when, it's announced that you're a lottery winner. Like, I couldn't imagine winning the lottery and just people, like, if you think it's bad with, like, say, a funeral and you're related to somebody with money and people coming out of the woodwork then, could you imagine, just imagine what it would be like to be a lottery winner and the people that would just show up or, like, write you and try and get money out of you. Like, dear God, I don't know that I would ever want to deal with that. But that isn't actually, that's a really good question. If you were to win the lottery, like, I don't know, I think in the book it was like $12 million or something. So if you won $12 million, what would you do with your winnings? I'm really curious what people would like to do. Like, they asked that at work the other day. Or they were talking about it or something, trying to uplift team members or something stupid like that. And they were talking about winning the lottery and, like, what they would do with it. And I was not surprised at all. But every single person, except for one, said that they would buy a second house, like a vacation home, and that was all that they were talking about. Or they would buy, like, these really, like, I don't know. I find them to be, like, unnecessary things, like buying a second house, buying a vacation home, doing this, buying more cars. And it's like, first off, that's why people lose their lottery money real fast in the first place, in my opinion. But second of all, it's like none of them said they would do anything good with it. Like, that would be good for themselves, of course. Like, that would be a good personal goal, and there's nothing wrong with having a personal goal. But you get $12 million, what else are you going to do? Are you just going to buy a bunch of houses to live in? Are you going to do something constructive with it? I'm really curious, like, what you guys would do. Would you just invest in a better home? Would you try to, like, donate some of it? Probably the most interesting answer that I saw on that, I didn't respond because I just didn't want to, because I felt like people would think that I wasn't serious about my answer. But the most interesting thing I saw from someone that responded was that they said they would keep a good portion of it to live comfortably, which I totally understand, and I would do as well. But they said they would take the remainder of what they did not need to survive, and they would actually buy, like, an older building and have it rehabbed. And they would turn it into a hotel for the homeless, and they would include medical services for the homeless and job training and things like that, so that it would be kind of like a rehab or like a shelter where you would get basically health care that you needed. You would get, they would help you if you were addicted to something, they would help you get off it. And then they would help you get trained up for some sort of job and help you find a job so that you can move on and become, like, a productive, healthy member of society. And I thought that was the most interesting answer anybody gave, because to me it's important to give back to a community. And that was the only person that didn't mention, like, buying another couple houses or a couple of cars or something. And, like, I do understand people need, to take care of themselves as well. They need to take care of their own well-being. I'm fine with that. But what else would you do? Because that's a lot of money. And if you're just going to spend a bunch of it on, houses, that's fine. That's your money. You can do what you want. But would you do anything else with it? Once you were safely secure financially, would you just invest it? Would you buy something for your family? Would you donate it to a charity? I have had that conversation several times with my husband, that if I ever came into money or managed to make a good amount of money, which who knows, we would have enough to live comfortably for the rest of our lives, essentially, and we would start donating it to people, or like charities, to help people that are not as fortunate. And that would be my plan to do with it, especially in times like these where it's so difficult for people. Like, that would be what I would honestly want to do, is to help other people. feel like I need to come a little bit further in. I don't know. So yeah, that was a really good book though. Anybody that hasn't read Lottery yet, I really, really recommend it. It is an easy read. It is nice and casual. It is just a well-written book, and it kind of makes you think. Because it's so easy to kind of dismiss people that, you know, aren't as smart as you, or aren't as like fast as you are at some things, but they have feelings too, and it kind of reminds you of like how vulnerable sometimes a person can feel because they're not the same as everybody else. So it's a book that has a lot of levels to it, and I really enjoyed it. And I highly, highly recommend it. And if you have comments you would like to include, please do. I would love to know your thoughts on it. I'm actually going to be starting, I think I'm going to start Mexican Gothic. That's why I included it in the thumbnail. That's going to be my book for the next week or so, hopefully. I am on schedule. My goal is to do probably 24 books this year, if not more. But I get worried about setting a goal like that because some of the books I have are really, really, you know, long. For those of you that maybe have the book, like Let the Right One In, is like huge. And I'm like, how am I going to finish that book in like a month? But whatever, we'll figure it out. As long as I'm reading, I think I'm going to be happy because it's really, really inspiring me to start writing again. And I think that's the best thing that I could be doing for myself right now. I really miss writing. I miss my characters. And reading just kicks art block right in the butt, and it makes it so much more fun to write again. So I've been trying to make time for that. I've been trying to make time to do my own art stuff. And it's just becoming... like, I don't have enough time in the day. I'm trying to spend time with my husband. I'm trying to work. It's like, so many things. So many things need to be done. But that's okay. It's good to be busy. I don't like to be bored. Like, I feel bad if I'm sitting around not doing things. So it's good to have something constantly on the schedule for me. Speaking of which, though, yesterday we did go for a hike, and it had rained a couple days before we went, so I wasn't sure how well it was going to go. I had hiking boots on, but Anthony only had his trail shoes. And we get to the visitor center for Barataria Preserve, which isn't far from my house. It's like maybe 30 minutes. We finally find it. That was hard to find. We find it, we get going, we walk over to like the visitor center itself to just take a look and see what's in the area, like where the trails actually are located and things like that. And there's an older couple there, and they're like, hey, you know, there's a little trail off the visitor center, and I was like, hey, you should go down there. There's an alligator. And my first thought is, nope, I'm not going down there. There's an alligator. I'm not going down there. You must be out of your mind. But that's what people go there for. They go to see alligators. So I'm like, oh, you know, that's interesting. And they're like, yeah, it's about 5 foot. It's nothing big. It's not a whopper or anything, but it's cute. And I'm thinking, I don't want to see a 5-foot alligator. You must be out of your mind. But whatever. So we end up walking down there because we have to drive to another area to get to the other trails. So we just walk down this like little 1/4-mile trail, and my heart's like thundering in my chest, and I'm looking around all paranoid trying to see this alligator because I don't want it to see me before I see it. And we're walking and we're walking, and I'm just looking around, and I don't see anything, and I don't see anything. And this is like a boardwalk that's like 6 inches, okay, like off the freaking water. And it's not deep water or anything, so there's not going to be huge alligators in there. But I'm like looking around, and I'm like, oh my god, where is it? I'm not going to see it. It's just going to freak me out. Like, my anxiety was getting so bad. And I was getting like so anxious. And then I look over at one point, we're almost at the very end, which is where the people said it was, and we're almost there, and we look around, and I look in the mud, and the mud is like black, okay? So I look in the mud, and it's like a little, okay, maybe 3-foot alligator, head to, like nose to tail or whatever. And it's just laying there, and I gasped. And I mean, it was like a horrified, oh my god kind of gasp. Like, oh my god! I jump back, and Anthony's like, what? What's the matter? He didn't even see it. And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh my God, it's right there. He's thinking I'm insane at this point. I'm like freaked out because I can see it and it's big. It's not huge. I know it's fine. It's not gonna bite me, but it still scares me. And I'm just like, no, 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 I can't. I gotta go back. I gotta go back. And then he's like, oh, it's so cute. And he just stands there and takes a picture of it. And then I'm like, I'm so freaked out. And I pop back up and I take a picture of it too. And then I start like basically power walking down the trail in the other direction. He's like, you're so dumb. Like you were talking about how scared you were and you just pop back up to take a picture of it and then run away. I'm like, well, I mean, it was asleep. It wasn't even awake. It was just hanging out because it was overcast and kind of chilly. It was just hanging out in the mud trying to get warm. And I was like terrified of it and I was scared. So I wanted to take a picture, but I didn't want to be near it. And I mean, it was just funny. And we then tried to go to other trails that were unfortunately like flooded out and closed and like trees were down and it looked like a really bad storm had come through. But luckily it wasn't like we were trapped anywhere and I didn't see any more alligators, so I was fine with it. But I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. I'm gonna zoom in so maybe you can see what I'm doing with the leaves here. But like I was so scared. And I know that's dumb. I know it's stupid because it wasn't gonna hurt me. It wasn't even aware that I was there probably until I screamed like a little girl, but it freaked me out. So yeah, and we're preparing for our camping trip, which was not this weekend. It is actually this coming weekend. So we had to go buy a bunch of stuff for that, and that was so expensive. We needed camping chairs, Anthony needed a particular backpack he was hoping for, and he found finally. We had to get some, beverages and things like that, and start stocking up on snacks and boots. Cause oh God, I can't even talk. I'm so tired. The trails were so bad yesterday that if we had had better boots, we might have been able to kind of stomp through it. But especially with him just having trail shoes, that would have been so gross. It would have just been like a huge mess. And so we decided that we weren't going to pursue the trails, but after that, he was like, we're going to go buy good trail shoes, like waterproof ones that we can take down trails like that, because I wanted to explore those. And there was one trail that was just like totally submerged. Like it was a lake on top of the water. And I looked at him and I'm like, Anthony, you know how I am with water. You know that if you try and make me go down a trail like that, I'm going to have an anxiety attack. I'm going to have a panic attack and I'm not going to be able to do it. And he understood. He was talking about just going down like the really muddy ones that were like so sticky and just gross. Not, the ones that probably have alligators lurking in the bottom of them right now because it's washed out so bad. But I don't know what it is. I cannot do alligators. I can't do sharks. Like, I just can't. I really, if anything makes me think past lives are real, it's stuff like that. Because at some point, I was killed by something in the water, and I am still terrified of it to this day. My mom will tell you, the very first time she ever tried to take me to the beach, I was like a little child, and I didn't even see the water yet. I just heard the waves, and I started screaming and crying and didn't want to go. And I have been, honest to God, scared of the beach since I was a kid. Like, I can get in the water. I don't like to. There was even a time that I would surf, but I would always be like a nervous wreck and really anxious and just... So something happened in like a past life or something where I was killed in the water because I just, ugh. The thought of it just freaks me out. I really kind of like how that's coming out. Like, this is getting pretty. But, yeah, so that was my camping adventures, or hiking adventures yesterday. Poor Anthony must think I'm just totally insane, but... And he's like, it's okay to have an irrational fear. It is not an irrational fear, you guys. Alligators are real. Alligators were right next to me. It is not an irrational fear. And he's like, I'm afraid of airplanes, but at least that's a rational fear. No. How often do airplanes crash? How often are people eaten by saltwater crocodiles? Let's think about this. But he teases me. He doesn't mean it. He knows I'm really scared of water. I think he gets a little frustrated by it sometimes, especially when it is irrational, like when we're up north and there is no alligators. And I still have trouble getting in like the lakes and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's something about the water that I can't escape it, even up north. Because like when we lived in Minnesota, like I would still have trouble getting into the water. And I would have anxiety attacks and panic attacks real bad when he would try and take me kayaking or something. And I don't know why. I really don't. But, you know, it is what it is. There's also like, I don't know. I was surfing once, okay, with my dad. He would take me surfing. He would take me and my sister surfing. That was like our weekend activity during the summer. And I would always kind of look forward to it because it was like, you know, time with my dad, and it was something he seemed to look forward to, so I would try and look forward to it. But I would always get nervous about it the night before. And there was one summer that there was a lot of shark bites. I remember that very clearly because one of them was a boy who was at a beach just a little south of where we would always go surfing. And he was around 11 years old, I think, at the time. And he was fishing, and he had fish bait in his pocket, and a bull shark smelled the shrimp in his pocket and grabbed his leg and actually was like attacking. It wasn't a bite, like an investigative bite, like it was attacking because it smelled the shrimp. And the only reason I believe he survived, and the only reason he did survive was because his brother happened to be there at the time and would like grabbed him and was dragging him back to shore with this shark hanging off of him. And that was always fresh in my mind when we would go, you know, to the beach. Well, that same summer at a beach just a little north of where that had occurred, it was me and my dad out in the surf. We never went out super far because I think he was like nervous of me not being able to swim very strong or like currents and things like that. So we didn't need to catch the big waves anyway because we weren't very confident. We were probably like 13, so it's not like we were out there riding huge waves, and it's Florida coast. It's not huge waves anyway. So we're sitting out there bobbing around, and I'm looking around and I notice that it's really flat. Like really flat. And I'm like, oh, this is almost like, and I remember so distinctly having this thought. I'm like, oh, this is almost like the calm before the storm, you know? And I look over and my dad says, hey, look at that. He's right next to me on the left-hand side. And I look over and I can see the water start to move. It's like rippling. Like something is rippling underneath the water, right? And I'm like, those are fish. And we're looking at it and we're like, those are a lot of little bait fish and they're coming this way. And we're just watching, and he starts yelling at me to start paddling into shore. And I didn't really understand why at first, but he's like, you know, get in the shore, go, go, go. And so I start paddling, and luckily I caught a wave. But as I did, like, the fish were coming closer and closer, and my dad was paddling right up behind me. By the time I looked back, he was kind of pulling his surfboard on the shore. He's like, we're not getting back in the water for a while. And I was kind of like, you know, why? What's going on? And he's like, you didn't see it, did you? No. And he's like, there's a shark out there. I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, you didn't see the fin of the shark, but there was a shark chasing all those bait fish in our direction. That's why I told you to start paddling into shore, because I was afraid it was going to take a bite out of the boards, or like think we were a seal or something and, you know, just take a bite. And ever since then, it has been like, oh my God. Like, it was the summer of shark bites. I was in a beach not far north of where one had just occurred, and it was just a shark chasing bait fish. But, you know, sharks are kind of dumb, and sharks see you bobbing on a board, and especially bull sharks, or tiger sharks, whatever it may have been, they will take a bite out of something they think is food. They are trash cans, and that could have very well have been me too. I mean, I felt bad for my dad because he was laughing at me. He's like, at least you got picked up by a wave. I had to paddle all the way back in. But it's like, you know, that was just really scary for me. And for someone that was already scared of, like, sharks, like, Jesus, you better bet I didn't get back in the water for the rest of the summer. I don't know how much I'm actually going to get done today. Like I said, I have other things I need to do. I need to prepare my outdoor garden because I never pulled the stuff I did from fall. Like, I've still got bell pepper plants and eggplant out there that are just kind of like stems at this point. I really need to pull those. I also have a whole bunch of succulents coming in because I got really sad during the week. And I decided I was going to treat myself to a bunch of plants. Oh my god, that's actually a funny story though. So besides all the planting and stuff, Anthony also wants to take a walk on the levees so I can get scared of more alligators that might be out there. That's gonna be I feel like exhausted already, and it's not even the weekday. I just need more time for the weekend. But yeah, so I got really sad last week. There was some stuff going on family-wise, and I really just kind of started missing my dad. Because, you know, it happens. It's been like probably 2 years since he passed, but you're still going to miss him every now and then. That's just life. That's human nature, you know? So I was having some trouble, and I just got really frustrated and really sad and decided that I was going to treat myself to some more plants. And when I went to Florida last year in October, my mom had given me cuttings of a cactus from my dad's house that she had been growing for me. She had made sure to grab, she knew that I was into plants, and she grabbed a cactus cutting from his house because he grew something called Peruvian apple cactus, which I didn't know at the time. All I knew is that he had this cactus since I was a baby, literally, okay? I am now 32 years old, and he had this thing since I was a baby. And I remember it being grown in a pot for the longest time, and it would just get slowly bigger and bigger and bigger. And I never saw it bloom or anything like that, but eventually it did get to the point where I went to visit him one day. And I mean, this was years later. I had moved to probably Minnesota or like New Orleans, and it was one of my trips to actually visit him from out of state. And he had actually, it had gotten so big, it was bigger than his house. He had it in the ground. He said he cut off the tops because it was just getting so unruly. And he just literally threw them in his garden bed, and they started sprouting more cactus. So, I mean, these things are really hardy. And this is going to sound a little weird, but I wanted his succulent that I found on his patio. I've talked about it before. I wanted that, and I wanted a cutting of his cactus to kind of keep him, like, part of him alive. And I know that sounds weird. That sounds weird to me to even say it, but that's how it kind of feels. And his succulent is doing great, by the way. But the cactus, my mom gave me 3 cuttings that she had taken from his house. And basically she took one cutting and planted it in her yard, and it started growing, and it grew so tall that it was growing over her privacy fence. So she cut it down into 3 parts and gave me 3 separate pieces of this cactus. Well, I get it to New Orleans, I put it in a pot with cactus soil, and I wait. And that has been since October, and it still hasn't grown. It still hasn't done anything. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe the humidity and the fact that I didn't bring it in for winter and things like that, maybe that killed it. Maybe I just need to kind of start over and get a different cactus. So I was sad, you know, I was missing my dad, and I decided I was going to buy a cutting from a local, well, not a local nursery. It is a nursery that's family run out in California that had cuttings for the Peruvian apple cactus. And this thing must be like really like coveted or something, because one, it was expensive, but two, it was the only nursery I found that had cuttings for it. Every other nursery carried it, but they were out of stock. Like, I don't know, whatever. I found one. It's like a 6-inch cutting for $20. That's the kind of price I paid. But I really wanted it, and I bought it. And I also I bought from the same nursery 10 succulent leaves, an assortment of 10 random succulent leaves, just the leaves. They have over 100 on site at their nursery, and what they do is they just collect 10 random ones and they send them to you in the mail. And you can use the leaves to try and propagate new, fresh succulents. And I thought that would be really cool. I thought that would be fun. And I'm really into succulents lately. So I ordered some of those. And then I wasn't done there. I ordered 10 succulent cuttings. So, no, I'm sorry, 5 succulent cuttings. And these are just 5 random succulents that they basically cut part of them off so that you can try and get them to grow roots and just stick them in soil and grow them that way. So I'm really excited to get these in. And they've printed the label, but they haven't shipped yet. So I'm really excited for when that happens and comes, because I am now going to have another cactus, and I'm going to have a whole bunch of succulents, hopefully. But the funny thing is, after I ordered the cactus, the Peruvian apple cactus that I had to have because it was just like my dad's, and that was going to make me feel better for some reason, I go outside and I'm like, you know what? I wonder if this thing actually is dead. I have 3 little pots full of these, like, just these cactus cuttings. And I'm like, I wonder if these actually are dead, you know, or if it's just like, maybe it's dormant, because I had read that it takes a really long time for these cacti to get going. Like, once they're planted, they're usually okay and pretty hardy, but you're not going to see any real growth for a while. So I'm like, well, I wonder if they're actually dead. Did I just spend $20 I didn't need to spend? And I give the smallest one a tug. Like, just take it by, not by the spines, but like the space in between, and kind of tug, and it doesn't come out. And I'm like, huh. If it was dead, I would imagine that it wouldn't be too hard, but at the same time, I packed it pretty good in the soil. So I'm like, well, let's just really pull this thing out and see what it looks like. So I give it a yank, and I hear the distinct sound of roots letting go of the earth. And I kind of stop for a second, and I peek underneath the bottom of the cactus. And guys, I'm not even kidding. That thing has roots almost as thick as this pencil. And they're not very long. They're probably just this long right now. But they are thick and they are growing. So I buried it right back where I got it from. And I gave the other ones a small little tug. And they resisted me too. So I was like, I'm not going to pull them up. They've probably got roots also. We're going to leave them right where they are and just let them grow, because I'm going to have 4 cactus now. 4 cacti of this Peruvian apple cactus that towers the freaking, you know, house when it's full grown. And I'm gonna have a bunch. And honest to God, my hope is that once we move next year, we are actually going to be moving, because he is in the military and we're coming up to the end of his contract for New Orleans. But my hope is that we get someplace nice, someplace relatively secluded, and someplace that I can open up like a little nursery. I would love to have a nursery for succulents and cacti that like I can sell locally, or maybe I could even do like a shipping type thing. I would love to have something like that. And even for like my vegetables, if I could just sell those locally or something along those lines, I think that would be so much fun. And I think I would be way happier doing that than the job I'm currently doing. So those are kind of like super long-term goals. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm investing so heavily in like succulents right now. But I love it, and it's such a fun hobby. I kind of want to show you guys like my little succulent shelf and my little setup I'm gonna have. And I'm thinking of doing like a blog for apartment gardening, because you see people growing in pots all the time, but you don't always see like the constraints of living in an apartment. Like, I've never found a blog specifically for gardening in apartments, which can be tricky because, like, you know, you have to deal with which direction your unit faces, and things like where the downspout for the apartment building is, and, you know, trying to attract local bees to your area to pollinate your plants, because let me tell you, that's hard to do. Just things like that. I think that would be kind of fun to do. But I really am tempted to show you guys also just my like my current little setup for my plants that's going to be quickly expanding because I need more room. But I have to be careful because I have a fat cat that will eat my plants. And that's no good if they're toxic or can make him sick. So I have to be really careful. I mean, plus, you know, it's not good for the plant either, so. That's probably like the biggest, most exciting thing right now, though, is when I pulled those up yesterday and I was like, oh my god, they have roots. Those cactus that I would have put money on saying they were dead have roots. They are not dead. They are trying to come in. I was so happy. Because like I said, it's some sort of weird mentality that like part of my dad is still kind of alive. So, listen, just let me have my little delusions, okay? I don't ask for much. But, oh, I love how these little leaves come out. This is so fun. I didn't really want to do this. I was really feeling more markers today, but I'm glad I am because it's just so chill. Like, this is just so easy to get kind of lost in that I really just... It's also easy for me to kind of forget that I need to watch my pressure for the pencils, so I'm trying to be really careful with that, because I sometimes end up going in way harder than I should. But it has such a nice soft effect with these. I really, really like them. I'm going to need more soon though, because I am beating up some of these colors. Let's see. How do I want to do this? So, that's probably like the most exciting thing I have going on right now. Besides our camping trip coming up next week. I am pretty excited about that. We're going to be going to a local state park. I just hope it doesn't rain and things like that, but we'll figure it out. We'll make it work. Because I don't like mosquitoes. I would much rather be cold than rainy and wet. We tried that once, it didn't go well, so I'm just hoping it doesn't rain. And work is work. I don't even want to talk about work. That's all I gotta say about that. What do you guys think? Is this coming out okay so far? I'm trying to get some details in there. I think I might need to go in again and really just kind of bump up some intensities. Or, does that even make sense? I don't even know. I try to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. I just want to kind of like bump up the intensity of some of the colors. But at the same time, I know I have to do it slowly. Because especially if I'm just using one color, I have to be careful. I have an idea of how to really bring out some dark areas in the red. But I'm not 100%. I'll have to experiment on that before I put it on the actual page. I'm not comfortable doing like an entire... I'm not comfortable experimenting on what may ruin an entire page because I got impatient. So... I think I mentioned my next book is going to be Mexican Gothic. I'm really interested in that one. It's kind of hard because I don't know, there's so many books I want to read. It's so difficult. If you guys have recommendations for books, feel free. I don't have that many on my to read shelf right now, so I need to get buying on a few. And my husband does insist that I buy all the books because, you know, he's liking to remind me that, hey, if we get what we really want, we're going to be in the middle of the woods. There's probably not going to be TV or internet, which that alone is a horrifying thought. But, you know, if I have my nursery to work on and all that other stuff, it might be okay. I like to think I'm not totally dependent on electronics, but deep down I think I am. Would you guys be able to live without TV? I'm kind of curious about that. Would you have a meltdown? Or okay, say you could have TV or internet. If you lost both of those, doesn't matter if it's just cable or whatever, whichever one you use for your primary source of entertainment, Netflix, you know, cable, whatever. If you were to lose that, would you be able to get by? I'm not sure, and it makes me really nervous when he talks about that, because it's like, oh God, I've always had something to entertain me or have on for background noise. But I think I would be willing to try it if it meant that I could have some peace. Because I'm very much noise triggered. My anxiety is very much triggered by noise. So I've been having a lot of trouble with the apartment lately, just because there's always some kind of noise around you. There's always a stereo, or there's always, like, you know, someone moving around. Even if they're not trying to be, you know, disruptive, there's just always some sort of noise. And that has been kind of grinding on me lately. And especially since I'm back at work and I'm under more pressure, it's like, it's just piling on, and I really, the idea of giving up something that I love, like internet and TV, in order to just have peace and quiet in the middle of the woods sounds fine. Like, I would be willing to live in a tent right now in the middle of the woods if it meant that I could just be happy and just work on my art and my nursery and work on my dreams that way. Which makes it sound like I'm kind of hiding from life, and maybe I am, but that's okay. I really think those are my goals now. I really want to have something where I can grow my own produce, because that's very hard to do on a stoop in New Orleans, but I have been successful doing that. And I just really want something where I can kind of relax, maybe share that with others, you know, sell my produce, sell my succulents, share my happiness with other people. That sounds fun to me. That sounds like what I need to be doing. Not calling insurance companies and all that other crap. I'm going to finish up this cluster, I think, and then we're going to be done, because I really need to get started on other things. And I'm kind of just babbling at this point, and I'm sorry. I'm trying not to, but I have been playing my Animal Crossing game. Oh, did I tell you guys that I got my capture card in? So I know a lot of you probably don't have much interest in it, but if you do, I was planning on opening like a channel called Davin D's Badly Plays, or Davin D Badly Plays, and it was just going to be me kind of like playing video games and relaxing and chatting, kind of like another just talking channel. I would do streams and stuff like that, of more chill games, probably like Stardew Valley, and probably Animal Crossing. There were maybe more action-oriented games. I really want to play Outer Worlds. I've really been wanting to play Outer Worlds for a while now. So I would maybe include that on the channel. And I finally got my capture card in, but my computer is not strong enough to run the program for the capture card. And that was so disappointing. So I have a really nice computer for like digital art, but that's all it's really good for. It does the very base for editing videos and things like that, and just kind of putting clips together. I can't really edit the way I want to. So I'm honestly considering eventually investing in another computer. Anthony wants me to get like a really nice laptop, because for one, we would need it for our travels, and 2, he thinks it would just be a really good investment for like my channel ideas. But it's like at the same time, if we're going to be living someplace where we're not going to have, you know, constant source of electricity for TV and things like that and internet to upload videos, like that seems a little wasteful. But he has promised me that since I enjoy making videos with you guys so much, we would find a way to make it work. Even if it's like I do the videos at home and like upload them onto a drive and do all my editing and stuff like that at home, and then we could go, once everything opens back up, to like a cafe or something and use their Wi-Fi to actually upload it on a weekly basis, like something like that. He said we would make it work, because I really do enjoy making videos. It's a lot of fun. I don't like this one as much. This one kind of bothers me. I don't know why. Probably 'cause I need to blend it out more, but it's fine. It's okay, it's all chill. It's our chill Sunday. We're allowed to do this. Alright, I'm gonna sharpen it one more time. I think it's like depending on the way I hold my wrist. Like this is much easier, and like this up here is harder, so it doesn't look as smooth. I mean, I could turn the page, but I mean, laziness and all that. Plus, I don't want to have to move you guys around and give you a weird view. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of talking a lot. I'm so happy about those plants, though. I mean, you guys honestly have no idea how excited I am for that. To get that cactus cutting, and I'm gonna keep that cactus cutting actually inside. I'm gonna see if it actually grows better inside or outside. And I'm also going to try propagating those succulents, and I'm so excited to try because one of the leaves fell off of one of the other succulents I ordered. Just during shipping, it happens. Like, they have fragile leaves, so if they get knocked around, they're gonna fall off. So I tried to do propagation with the leaf that way, and I was actually surprised that the leaf is starting to grow roots, and that is so exciting because I've never been able to propagate a succulent that way before. The only thing I've ever tried to do was my dad's, and I did like cuttings, basically half stems and stuff off of that, which are coming back to life now that I'm watering them a little more. I've done a little more research. So I'm so excited to finally be like figuring things out and being more of a gardener. That just feels so good to me. Do you guys garden at all? Do you have any like flowers, or do you do produce or anything like that? Like, I love to try and grow bell peppers in my stoop during spring. That's actually what I need to go prepare outside. I need to get rid of the old plants. I need to get new soil and kind of like just start my bell peppers, because I'm going to do bell peppers this year only, because they always do really well, and eggplant do really, really well too, but we don't need as much eggplant as we always get. So I want to try and just make room for more peppers. So let me know if you do any gardening down in the comments below. I would love to know like your climate area and like what kinds of things you like to garden. Do you just do flowers? The flowers I grow always die. No matter what, they die. So for me, I stick with things like cacti, succulents, and vegetables that are pretty hardy and difficult to kill. But I mean, let me know what you guys do. I would love to see garden pictures. I would love to talk garden talk or book talk, whatever you guys want to mention. Go ahead and throw it in the comments down below. Let's get a conversation going because it's coming up on spring. It's getting to be that time of year. But anyway, this is about as far as we got today. It looks much better than you can see over here where nothing has been done. It is starting to come together and I'm very happy with it. I'm going to do some research on how to maybe add some colors to make it a little darker in some areas. and we'll go in again and do some more build up for colors. But I'm really happy with how it's looking right now. This is going to be a very long video process, so just try and keep, bear with me, keep that in mind. And like I said, this is for background noise, this is just to catch up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope this has been a good time for you to chill and work on your own craft. And I hope to see you guys next week. I'm hoping to actually have another video in the middle of the week, so keep an eye out for that. And we're going to do another chill color on Sunday, hopefully. I'm really hoping. We'll see how it goes considering I'll be camping. But definitely let me know how you guys are doing, what your crafts are, and I will see you next week with 2 videos. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope you like seeing what I've done so far. I'm very interested in seeing what you're up to. And I will see you next week. Stay safe, stay chill, and have a great work week.